Morning, everyone. Well, morning here in my time zone anyway. Thanks for being here. Just got to Waukeen's Rest. Yeah, I'm glad they fixed most of the bugs out of Waukeen's Rest. In the full version, it was... Hey, Joshua. Hey, Philip. Yeah, Waukeen's Rest used to be the buggiest section of the entire early access. It was just horrible. Hey, Lord Henry. Thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm glad they appear to have fixed it anyway. The couple of times I've played through it in the full version here off stream, it's worked out okay. So we'll see if it works the same today, though. Boy, the cats are throwing up a ruckus today. I hope none of this comes through on the microphone. Yeah, there are things to miss in there. But yeah, hopefully everything works out today. Like I say, it used to be not just a matter of missing stuff, but it, you know, almost a matter of just not being able to get stuff at times because the propagation of the fire was so buggy and all sorts of other stuff. It was just a hot mess in early access. Hey, Dan. Yeah, Paladin's going to be starting after this stream is over. We're going to take an hour break, give everybody a chance to get up, move around, take a break, give me a chance to give my voice a little break, get some water, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, we'll be starting the Paladin playthrough at 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So 4 hours after we start this one, we'll be playing the Paladin later on this afternoon. Yeah, there's going to be Saturdays are going to be busy days now for a while till the end of the NFL football season here. I just can't do anything on Sundays. My entire Sunday is just taken up. If I'm not at the game and tailgating and that sort of stuff right up until the game starts, and then by the time you're done, it's, you know, a couple hours after the game's over and all that sort of stuff. If I'm not doing that, then I'm at home getting ready for the watch parties with friends and that sort of stuff. So yeah, my Sundays are completely booked until late in the evening, and it doesn't really do much good to have a stream late in the evening on Sunday. That's a bad time to have it from everybody's perspective. So hey, Ostamura, welcome. Welcome from Europe. Afternoon over there. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, the days of the playthroughs are starting to bleed together even more now. At least I think I remember where I am on my personal playthrough. I know I've gotten past the first sections of the Underdark. I have killed the bullet and went to the camp and talked to the mushroom people there, and I think I've worked out a plan to be able to work through using the bullet in most of the combat encounters down in the Underdark. The bullet's hard to maneuver down there in small spaces, but I think I can get it worked out, or I think I have got it worked out anyway. So yeah, almost 5 p.m. there. Yeah, I never had a problem going to Europe for traveling with jet lag. It was always coming back where I always got hit with it. Normally fly at night, so get some good rest, get there in the late morning, early afternoon, and then by that time I'm able to stay up for the rest of the day and get my sleep schedule straightened out. But coming back, boy, yeah, need an extra day when I get back to get my get my schedule straightened out. Oh, really? Yeah, the Bard is a really fun character, and there's so many ways you can go with it. It's also one of those, because it's such a jack-of-all-trades character, I mean, literally because of a class, feat that you get called that, but it can be added in with a few levels of multi-class onto other things to give you a lot of benefits. So even though they have different spell casting DCs, clerics can gain quite a bit from a couple of levels of Bard, at least 3 probably, if you want to go for more of a tank Bard or a tank cleric type of build. And it's actually something that I'm probably going to explore in the Paladin playthrough when we get to probably around level 7, I think, with Shadowheart there. We'll kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. But yeah, I'm thinking about multi-classing with her. Instead of leaving her out of the party and bringing a Bard into the party, I think I'm going to leave her there and multi-class her and try and get some more frontline help out of her. I'm going to play her a little bit differently than I've ever played her before, I think. Yeah, it really does. It's and what's so funny about it is that in most of your tabletop sessions, it's a fairly uncommon character class to see. However, if you get the real creative role-playing type people in your tabletop campaign, they are almost always going to choose Bard. It just allows so much RP in your campaign, and once you've developed it, it just allows so much for party buffs and enemy debuffs that it turns into an amazing campaign. I've had 2 campaigns with Bard characters in them, and they've just been amazing. Yeah, multi-classing with your Bard as your main, where you're focusing most levels on Bard, into something else, then you become a little bit more restricted, because you're trying to keep your spellcasting modifiers the same at that point. So adding in splashes of Warlock or Sorcerer are what the most common multi-classes with a Bard main are. If you're another class and you're trying to add in some of the benefits of Bard, like the additional short rest song and some very powerful wisdom-based saving throw spells like Tasha's and that sort of stuff, you can add in a splash and a couple levels of Bard with not many downsides. But if you're mainly focused on Bard, then most of the builds focus around keeping the spellcasting DC the same. So I've seen some really interesting Warlock and Sorcerer multi-classes with Bard. And that's true too, Lord Henry, as well as focusing, because a lot of times what you can do with a Bard is also, if you're going the swords route with your Bard, you're focused on Dex anyway. And since you're focused on Dex and Charisma as part of your build, adding in a few levels of Rogue to be able to get your sneak attack and to be able to possibly get your subclass selection done can really add a lot of combat capability to a Bard. And then you're really more of a damage dealing Bard at that point, with a secondary ability to buff and debuff characters, but you're really more focused on the damage aspects of it. But yeah, those two can overlap fairly well if you're going the swords route with your Bard. Yeah, and dual hand crossbows are just really good. they just are. You just have to find them in the game here. They're quite a bit more rare than other things. So you find one fairly early on, but finding the second one is a little bit more difficult. Yeah, no, I mean, that's something that's really overlooked, is the damage output that a rogue can do. The versatility that taking the Thief subclass offers with the extra bonus action is not to be underestimated. However, that first round, first hit damage bonus with the Assassin subclass is, and if you're going for damage dealing, that's the end-all be-all for a rogue. And you're going to see as we go through the rogue here, or through Astarian's leveling process, how that's going to be changed up a little bit as we multi-class, as we get into expanding that damage dealing in that first round for him, because it's really the first round is where he really shines. After that, it drops off a little bit with Assassinate, but it's still with the sneak attack damage that you have available to you, especially if you have access to haste as a spell that you can cast. It's just incredible for single point damage. Yeah, Philip, if you can keep those saving throws going. All right, so we probably lost track of a little time here, so we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to today's live stream, episode 10 of our Baldur's Gate 3 Bard gameplay series. Of course, I'm Commander Jorval, and I want to thank you for coming along on our journey today. So, on a couple of admin notes. First, Larian released 2 hotfixes this week. The first one, Hotfix 5, was a little bit larger and meant to address a lot of PS5 issues because of the release that happened for PS5. So congratulations all you console players. You're now, or PS5 players anyway. You're able to get your fix on Baldur's Gate 3 now. But Hotfix 5 was focused around a lot of that, with some other nagging issues that have been hanging around that they hadn't been able to fix through the previous patches, and now we're able to finally get away to done to get them taken care of. So as a follow-up to that, they released Hotfix 6 immediately after that, and really small, but a couple of very important fixes that were game-breaking at a certain point. So they immediately recognized an issue that had popped up after the first hotfix and went in and corrected it in a big way, while also adding a couple other minor fixes at the same time. So again, Larian illustrating that they're actively paying attention to everything that people are reporting about it, or that they're finding and are fixing it in a very, very timely manner. So it's really amazing to see them and how well they're keeping up with all the issues that people are reporting here in the first 2 months of the game and the first week of launch for PS5. So it's really, really good to see. On another admin note, just as we've all noticed through the community post and the About tab on the channel, this is the first week of the streaming change. So we've had the first Starfield stream that was on Wednesday evening in US time, and today we have our 2 Baldur's Gate 3 streams. We've got the Bard stream here, which will be ending at 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time here in the US, and then the Paladin stream will start an hour after that and will run from 2 until 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So if you're so inclined, feel free to take a little break in between the streams while I give my voice a rest and get ready for the next one, and then we'll start up again for the Paladin stream this afternoon. So I hope to see you guys there. On one last admin note, my area here has had, where I live, has some major construction going on out in front of my home. So they've had a water leak and some other stuff going on. So there's construction going on out there while they're working to fix all that. So hopefully none of that comes through on the mic today. But if it does, let me know, and I'll see if I can adjust some of my pickups on the mic to be able to tone it out. So we'll go from there. So I think that's it for the admin notes. So on our recap, so we left off last week. Well, last week was a fairly eventful stream, but we ended up last week by finishing off the combat encounter at the cave that contains the continuation of the missing shipment quest. We cleared out the gnolls that were out in front. We convinced Flynn to turn on his gnoll buddies, and then we ended up killing Flynn afterward as well. And we're here inside the cave with Rugan, and we're going to go ahead and start off this stream by talking to him, finding out what's going on with that shipment, and then we're going to head out and explore a little bit. Okay, so here we go. As you know, we left off last time here in the cave. We've got a bunch of dead gnolls everywhere. So we can see them laying around, but then Rugan here and his partner in crime, Ollie, the two that we saved, are now here, and I really don't like Wyll standing that close to the edge. So we'll start off by talking to Rugan here.
Thank the gods that's over. Wish you'd been with us when the beasts attacked on the road. Might have been more survivors. I don't suppose you saw any of my crew alive out there. This whole journey's been one grim sight after another. Gnolls, goblins, drow. Risen Road's more dangerous than ever. You're the first friendly face we've seen since Eltergard. We're bound for Baldur's Gate. Got some cargo to deliver. But we've a stop to make along the way.
Okay, so as most of you know through the early access playthroughs, this encounter can be played a multitude of different ways. And all of the different outcomes to this are going to be reflected in future encounters that you have, not just here in Act 1, but also later on in Act 3. So how you play this can have a lot of different ramifications. We've seen a few different ways to play it in my live streams. I'm going to play this the fairly standard / default route here on this playthrough. But you can feel free to visit some of the previous live streams to see how different it was played in other ones and how that it impacts things that are going to be coming up here. And we'll talk about that more as we get into those sections. But for here, like I say, I'm just going to play it fairly straightforward.
Waukeen's Rest. It's just up the road. I'd be enjoying a mug of ale right now if those beasts hadn't jumped us. Listen, you look like you know how to handle yourself. You should meet my associates. We've got our own drinking spot by the tavern. Invitation only. Tell the fellow on the door. Little Serpent, Long Shadow. He'll take good care of you.
Reading the comment, yes, Fluff, I do. You'll see me swap out the characters as we go, especially when we get to there with things that I know are part of their origin quest lines. So yeah, we'll see them swap in and out. We'll have a default party for most of it, but then when we get to those areas, we'll be swapping people in and out as we go.
Aye, the whole reason we're in this mess. Trinkets for some rich tosser in Baldur's Gate. He gets his shiny baubles. We get a handful of taranths.
Taranths are the currency of a merchant network called the Zhentarim. Led by the mysterious Paragost of Darkhold, their dealings are far from scrupulous.
Oh, okay, so they've expanded on the lore here in the full version, mentioning Paragost of Darkhold and that sort of stuff. The Zhentarim have a very long history in Forgotten Realms, and there's a lot of lore that surround them, so they're a whole lot of different options now that are opened up here that are interesting because of my bard here as well, being able to make a perception check with advantage because I am familiar with the Zhentarim now that I passed that check. So if you want to play it this way with a bard and you pass that history check, then yeah, it looks like we've got a much easier way to take possession of their shipment.
You know who we are. Very clever. And you probably also know it's not smart to interfere with Zhent business. This is the point when a clever lass like you accepts my gratitude and walks away.
Okay, so again, more options to be able to lead you down the road of taking the cargo one way or another. You can either convince him to try and give it to you, or you can just fight them and take the cargo yourself. I'm not going to do that, though. So, as part of that, the Caravan Strongbox is marked as steel. You can, right now at this point, go into turn-based mode because you can see how he turns his back. you can go into turn-based mode and you can pick the lock and steal it anyway. So with all of those conversations, you don't have to convince him. So you can either fight him for it, you can convince him to give it to you, or you can just leave like I am and now still have another option to go steal it if you'd like. So, as I say, multiple different ways to play this.
I crave blood.
And it's entirely up to you, you know, how you want that to play out. So, for now, what I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to toggle my group and I'm going to go around and start searching the cave here, and then we are going to definitely take a long rest because we are very, very depleted on our action economy, as we expected at this point. So we are going to search Flint here, and with Flint you get the Shattered Flail and a Mind Flayer Parasite Specimen. Okay, we can walk out here and we can do some searching around all of the dead gnolls. And again, hyena ears, very important because of the potion of speed. If you don't have haste available to you, especially, then having potions of speed and being able to craft them using the ingredients is very, very useful.
What's hiding here?
Okay, so we got a few of the most powerful weapons in the game here with the salamis. I've mentioned it before. Yes, you can kill somebody with a salami. It does do damage. I actually did it by accident in one of my playthroughs. So, not the most effective weapon at only 1d4 though. So we've got the outside pretty much cleaned out, so now we're going to head back in here and we can search the inside real quick. And that consists of the alchemist fires that we've picked up. As well as other miscellaneous things that are scattered about. So we do have an upper area up here that you have to jump to get to. And
Enough waiting. I crave blood.
sorry, just taking stock here real quick. I'm gonna move Astarian down here with me. And we're both gonna go together because I do want Astarian to cast guidance here.
Is that blood? No, never mind.
And we're going to jump up here and search this upper area.
Moving ahead.
Dual wielding salami. Y'all are free to do whatever you want. I had no idea how it even got equipped the first time it happened to me. And then I kind of figured out how it was happening the second or third or fourth time that I noticed it showing up in my main hand. So we'll send all the arrows off to Astarian as normal. He's our ranged character here. Nothing rotten. Whoops. That's an interesting question. Well, we can find out real quick. Well, I can't because I sent them to camp. I don't think I have any in here. It doesn't look like I do. Nope, I don't. If I had saved one, then I could have lit this campfire and tried to dip it, but I sent them all off to camp, so we don't have them. But yeah, if I do pick one up and I'm somewhere near a fire point, then that would be interesting to try and see what happens. Because in tabletop, when you dip your weapons, your DM has the option to start damaging your weapon because of it. And I'd be real anxious to see if that whole mechanic of if you are able to dip your salami in fire, does it start cooking or taking damage of some point so you can't use it as a weapon anymore.
Shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times.
So go up here and just do a little more searching around these barrels. Some more camp supplies to send off. Okay, we do have a heavy crossbow here we can pick up. We can sell it later.
Have to keep going.
Okay, now we've seen this before. We have a locked wooden trunk over here. So normally that would mean that you're going to take Astarion and jump over there and try and search it. So Astarion can make the jump to get over there. Making the jump to get back, however, because of his low strength, can be a bit problematic. So there is another way to go about getting chests that are in hard to reach spots when you're not able to get there with your lockpicking or your support character. And I've shown this once before. You can take a high strength character like Lae'zel. You can jump her all the way across here, and the wooden trunk, you can just pick it up.
Found and taken.
That puts it in her inventory. She's got it down here. It weighs a lot. It weighs 10 pounds, but that doesn't matter for her when she's got such a high strength. And now you can continue searching the areas over here with her. And this burlap sack is being problematic. Okay, nothing there. Okay, so nothing there. And then with her high strength, she can jump back across as normal. And this area here, even though it looks closer, it's not. There's not a path out here under this area. You have to jump from here, which is actually farther than jumping from here. So once you've got her back over here, then you can simply right-click on this and go drop item. That will remove it from our inventory, and now we can take Astarion over here and lockpick the trunk. Okay, so just one more thing to keep in mind, one more way to go about doing it. There is, Philip, I believe, and it's been a while since I've explored it, but there is one spot, and I believe, and again, if you move, and I'm not going to do it with him just because in case he gets trapped, but you can move your character all the way out here to the end of this little spit hanging out here. And from there, when you do jump with Astarion, there's one tiny little spot that's either here or over here that he's just able to get to. And you have to move your cursor around in kind of a searching pattern to find it. But if you're not in the exact right spot over here, again, it can be problematic to find. So it's really not worth it to waste your time doing it. So Yeah, I've done it before because I was surprised on one of my live streams that I actually found a way to jump him back. I had mentioned about jumping him over there, that it was getting hard to get back, and I would illustrate it, and I jumped him over there, and then I moved him back, and I was moving my mouse around and just happened to find the like 1 pixel where it was going to work. So it's in one of my previous live streams. I can't entirely remember which one it was. But yeah, it is possible. It's just not something that you really need to spend your time doing, dealing with. Just another way to think about it. If you think you're going to have to jump into an area and you might not be able to jump back, then don't take a Astarian to do it. Take one of your other high strength characters and have them jump over there and do it instead. Yeah, that's true. If you're on controller, it's going to be significantly harder to find it than if you're able to move around in small areas with your mouse. So now we're going to move over into this area over here, and again we have some stuff that we can search here. We don't need to take the cup or the fork, and I keep hitting tab instead of escape. I apologize. Okay, more camp supplies. Healing potions are always useful. We don't need the knife. And then we do have some camp supplies here on the ground, so don't forget to pick them up.
Step carefully.
Okay.
There's a trap.
So this is why I cast guidance, is to be able to see that trap, and we do have some more camp supplies here. And we're actually going to bring Astarian over and do it again. And now for getting back here, you can't just path back here.
What now?
You can, however, move these chests out of the way. However, you just need to be careful when you're doing that you're not moving them into a location where you're going to trigger the poison mine here. So I tend to not do that, and I don't know why I'm taking my bard in there.
Keep your distance, darling.
Okay, and I'm going to disarm the poison mine here. And I will add in guidance here to give me a almost foolproof chance. Okay, and now while I'm over here, I can walk up to the wooden chest and lockpick it.
With pleasure.
Okay, so no problems with any of that for Astarian, of course.
Have a lot on my mind. And, well, in it.
So now we can search all of these items back here. And you can see you can't reach this area, so now you can feel free to move these items out of the way and clear a path to get back there if you'd like.
It's our lucky day after all. I hope you're lucky. The rest of our crew's half digested, and you're still alive. That's lucky.
And we pick up Reason's Grasp out of this chest, and we'll look at that here in just a second. Okay, you don't need to pick up the rotten fish.
Best be on my way.
And then exploring the rest of this, there's nothing else to see over here. There is a nice deep chasm over here It's got a faint bluish tint to it. So feel free to jump into it if you'd like. I'm not going to. And now we are pretty much finished with exploring here. So we're going to make our way out of this area again and quickly check our mini-map before we take our long rest here.
Well, lad, it's
And again, holding Alt.
Symbol in the blood. What does it mean?
We can finish doing some searching out here. Now we're going to take a look at our map. So... Oh, is there... The Knoll Fleshnar was just knocked out? Oh, he was. Didn't even pay attention to that. I was wondering why there was a red icon and why it was hard searching him. Wasn't entirely sure, but now I know. Okay, so looking at our mini-map, you can see that there is a little area down here by where we encountered Karlach that we didn't... We searched part of it up to here from coming down the cragged rock this way, but we didn't come back down this way. So we're going to head down south and open that up real quick.
the rest of our crew's half digested, and you're still alive.
And while we're going this way, we will pick up some more crafting supplies while we're out here.
That'll fit in my pack.
And we do want to be
No time to rest. Need to
walking
find a way
around
forward.
with guidance for the most part. Okay, so that's where we were, so we'll head over this way. Finish searching some of these camp supplies up here. I can see another balsam up there. Yeah, there are multiple ways to traverse the overworld here, quote unquote, and enter into other areas of the game. And if you have the Featherfall spell, you can find several other ways to navigate around the overworld to get into other areas of the game. So we recognize the toll house here. So we're going to head back down this way. And again, I'm going to get Astarian just to refresh the guidance real quick.
No one back home will ever believe this. Another step forward.
And we'll head down here and head back. Okay, I walked too far and too fast. I lost my bearings there real quick on it. So the survival check here is a DC 18 for this. And again, you can illustrate this here. Because I didn't find this, I'm not going to take it. But yeah, there is a chest there. I'll illustrate it and open it up for you guys so you know where it is and what it's about. I just lost my bearings there real quick. I cast guidance like I wanted to and then bypassed it. So you would normally approach that a lot slower and try and give everybody a buffed up chance to find it.
Watch your back.
No one stopped me yet.
Okay, and now that I'm here at this area on our mini-map, I'm going to start taking it a little slower, like I normally do when I'm walking around. And holding Alt
Might be useful.
just to make sure we can pick up all the crafting supplies and things like that that are out here.
With haste.
So you can see that you can cross into the Risen Road from this area here. This is where Scratch was. You can jump across to the rock here in the middle and then jump across to the shore over here to get to the Risen Road this way. It's just another way to get into this area as opposed to jumping across the bridge up there.
What now?
Okay.
These things have stayed interesting.
Hidden here in the grass is a skeleton. It's really easy to miss it. You don't have to pass a perception check or anything to find it. It's just kind of hidden in here. And this was pointed out to me by all of the great people in my comments and in my chat. This is where the smuggler's ring is at. We're going to send this to Astarion, and we're going to talk about it here in a second. As we continue on just searching down here toward this area. And then we get down to where we were previously and the perception check that we failed for the loose rock down here. I thought that the smuggler's ring was here underneath the rock last time. It is not. It's actually hidden in that skeleton. So you don't have to pass a perception check to find it. So thank you all for reminding me about that. I appreciate it. But yeah, the skeletons can be sometimes hard to see because of how well it blends in and it's covered up by the grass here. But for Astarion especially, the smuggler's ring is another one of those in Act 1. I'm almost guaranteeing that I'm never going to fail a disarm or a lockpick check ever again. Adding sleight of hand +2 is a huge bonus. He doesn't really care about his charisma taking a -1 because that -1 that he's going to get dropping from 10 to 9, the only thing that's really useful for from him is any charisma saving throws. So if he gets into fights with warlocks or sorcerers, he's going to be at a slight disadvantage, but he's not trying to convince anybody in conversation to do anything. He's not my main character for conversations or trying to persuade somebody to do something. So him having that -1 is not a negative impact at all for him, really. Having that -1 on one of your other main characters, so you're planning to be your talking character, you want to make sure that if it does drop your charisma by 1, that you're not invoking or getting it to a level where you're getting a minus penalty. So, for instance here, if I applied it to my bard, I would go from 19 to 18. That's still a +4 to my charisma checks and that sort of stuff. So you just want to place it somewhere or have your abilities worked out so that you're not taking a negative. If I put it on Wyll, it would drop me from 18 to 17, and that would mean that he does now have a +3 to his charisma modifier, and that's not what you want to happen. So, but for Astarion, a +2 to stealth, a +2 to sleight of hand are just going to get him into that I'm rolling 30 on my sleight of hand checks all of the time type of thing. It's just a don't miss ring for whoever your support class character is, but for Astarion, it's really a I can't miss on anything I'm doing now type of ring. So you definitely want to make sure you don't forget about it. So again, thank you to everybody who reminded me that it was not under the rock. I certainly appreciate it. And now we can kind of take a look at where we are. We noticed that here, when we went this way, we talked that Waukeen's Rest was over here. And it certainly is, and we don't want to get too close to Waukeen's Rest. I have not experimented with this in the full version, and I don't want to experiment with it on live stream. But it used to be that if you walked past Waukeen's Rest and you loaded Waukeen's Rest, so to speak, then the timer would start on the quests that are in the beginning, or the encounter that's at the beginning of it. And it really could mess up how everything worked inside Waukeen's Rest. I'm assuming that they've changed that because it was a horrible setup and it was complained about in the forums endlessly. But I don't want to go test it here on live stream, and I forgot to test it in my personal playthrough when I went through it, so we're not going to venture over there. We are just going to go into our long rest, though, because we desperately need one here to get our action economy back.
Hellsfire. She's coming.
Wyll, you've been naughty, and you know what happens when you're naughty.
Gods damn it. Anyone but her.
Okay, so we're being introduced to Mizora. We learned about Mizora by talking to Wyll. This is Wyll's patron. Warlocks gain their power through making a contract with a patron, and that patron in turn imbues them with a portion of either their power or power that they have access to. So Mizora, I'll tell you right now, is one of my absolute favorite characters in this game. She is equal parts cunning, beguiling, convincing, ruthless, and backstabbing all into one character. She is like the female version of Astarion, just bumped up several notches because of the power that she has over Wyll. So my playthrough here, my interactions with Karlach are going to be with Mizora are going to be fairly straightforward. My Paladin playthrough, however, you're going to see an entirely different side of things. So I'm kind of anxious to show it to you as we go. It's going to be really fun. But for now, we'll just go through the normal expected interactions with Mizora.
Wyll, you absolute stinker. You kept me a secret? Time to let the Hellcat out of the bag. Besides, I've already got a pet. But he's been unruly. And his leash needs a yank. We had a deal, Wyll. But Karlach's still breathing.
I've taken more pleasant shits than you, Mizora. And at least those can be buried after.
That's no kind of talk for a lady. By the way, Karlach, Zariel sends her regards.
You told me! Devils only! She's a tiefling, not a monster!
How precious. The little pupster's found his bark.
Clause G, Section 9. Target shall be limited to the infernal, the demonic, the heartless, and the soulless. Karlach meets the criteria, pet. Trust me on this.
point. Oh, yes. Thanks for the reminder.
Wyll burns in the fires of Avernus. The lightning storms of Dis strike his flesh. His soul passes through each layer of the hells, gaining their essence and their torment.
That's better.
What the hells have you done?
A promise broken, a price paid. You know the terms.
Get used to the new form, pet. There's no going back. Some magic even I can't undo. Now, let's see how the frontiers fare without their precious blade.
Karlach, keep an eye on him, would you? I'll be keeping mine on you.
Oh, and Wyll, don't forget, our pact still stands. Ta-ta.
Okay, so a very, very interesting encounter, and this was all predicated on our interaction with Karlach last live stream. So, a couple of comments. I'm glad to see, Philip, that they hopefully fixed it. I would assume that they did. The Waukeen's rest timing and that sort of stuff, it was horrible. So I assume that they missed it, or that they fixed it. So, Ostermer, can you go back for items? The answer is no if you are into the next act. If you are into Act 2, you're not going to be able to traverse backward to Act 1. So if you've progressed to Moonrise, then no, you're not going to be able to. So you want to make sure that before you leave the Underdark or you leave the Mountain Pass, that you've cleared out everything that you need here. So, wonder if you can romance the devil from Gripmaster. Thanks for being here, you and Big Boss as well. So, like I say, I don't want to get into a whole lot of spoilers here for Mizora. Mizora plays a fairly important part as you're going to go through the rest of your playthrough. And she can be encountered in a few other locations, and you can actually have her in your camp as well for a while. It all depends on how things play out and the choices that you make, because she's going to have a fairly complicated story as we go along here. So I'm going to play this playthrough fairly straightforward and not going to give away any spoilers, but I don't think it's that big a spoiler because it's out there in other content creators' videos and everything else. But yes, you certainly can, Gripmaster. You can get involved in a dalliance with Mizora as you go through this, and it's actually extraordinarily entertaining to go through the variations that she has in her quest line, or in this portion of the quest line. So, like I said, don't want to delay it too long or spend too much time on it, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun to be had there. So we do have a lot of conversations, so we'll go ahead and I do need to take an autosave here, and we'll go ahead and start having our conversations in camp here.
There's something I want to talk to you about. Something important. I can never take for granted how someone might react when they learn I worship Lady Shah. Easier to just keep it a secret than take the risk. But you showed you had an open mind. I'm trying to say that you've earned my trust in a way very few ever have. I want that to mean something. I want you to know more about me, at least from what I can remember. As long as I've prayed to Lady Shah, I've wished to serve her as a dark justiciar. There is scarcely a greater way to fully dedicate yourself to Lady Shah, save perhaps if you become the head of her church. To become a dark justiciar is to become the Night Singer's sword arm, her implement with which she will cast down the unbelievers and win the final battle to restore her perfect, endless darkness. It's all I ever wanted. I prayed it was my calling. But Mother forbid me from seeking to prove myself worthy of the rank. She said I was not ready. Not my mother, I should add. The Mother Superior, head of Lady Shah's enclave in Baldur's Gate. Sometimes I wonder if she would ever deem me ready. I owe her everything, and I only wish to serve, yet she can prove inscrutable.
Fine. What's on your mind?
I don't think I've ever had a confidant quite like you. And if I have, I can't remember them.
Okay, so again, once you have scripted conversations with one of the NPCs, always go back and see if there are any
Karlach and Wyll
others.
seem to have put their differences aside. I thought it was going to come to blows for a moment.
So just one more time.
Shah's blessings upon you.
Okay, and then we get back to normal conversations. So that way you can make sure that you're having all the conversations, because the scripted conversations can back up with each other, so to speak. And you need to, you might have other choices that will lead you to other things if you don't clear them all out. So whenever you leave camp, or before you leave camp, just make sure you've cleaned out, or you've gone through all of the camp conversations you have available to you.
I thought we were going to see some real sparks fly between Wyll and Karlach. It's almost a pity things ended so amicably. Seeing those two duke it out would be fun.
And one more time.
What can I do for you, my friend?
Okay, that's all back to normal. So, yeah, Mazora is like Astarian dialed up to 100.
Karlach's got the brawn of a warrior and the wiles of a survivor. Best of all, she speaks her mind plainly and fully. Show her due respect.
Okay, we're going to come back to Lae'zel here in a minute. But we do obviously have to have a talk with Wyll. We'll talk to Gale first. Like he's got arcane hunger.
A devil and devil hunter standing shoulder to shoulder against a common enemy. Rather poetic, I think.
Okay, so nothing else in here for him. Except we can see that he's got arcane hunger. And that's because he needs to absorb an artifact. And when he doesn't, he starts getting negatives to him. So right now he has disadvantage on Constitution saving throws. So you need to kind of keep track of that. So let's talk to him.
I'll have to speak slowly. I'm finding it quite difficult to concentrate with my condition gnawing at my insides like a teething displacer kitten. That is most gratifying to hear. May I?
So it's going to pop up the various items that we have in our inventory that we can utilize to give to him, and we didn't talk about the Shattered Flail. The Shattered Flail is a really interesting weapon in the enchantment that it has from Yanogu's gift. Whenever you deal damage with it, you gain 1d6 hit points. However, if you miss with it, you have a chance to go mad. And in that case, you can start attacking your own party members if you end up going mad. So it's a very interesting type of weapon, but the downsides can be really harsh. Especially if you have a really high damage dealing character that's wielding it. Things can get very, very harsh when you get nuked by your paladin, or something like that. So it can get very, very interesting. The other thing that I appreciate in this dialogue now is that they've got a marker on the items to let you know if it's equipped or not. This was not available to you previously in early access, so you didn't know if this was something that you were wearing or not. And if you accidentally clicked on the wrong one, you could give away something that you really, really wanted. So making it very obvious that things are equipped now is great. The obvious choices here are the Shattered Flail. We also have been keeping the Watcher's Guide around specifically for something like this. But now that we've picked up the Shattered Flail, I'm going to use that instead. It's not something I'm going to use on any of my characters.
Thank you. Oh, that hit the spot. I can feel it work. The magic, it's like a lullaby that sings to sleep the demon inside. A metaphorical demon, I haste to point out, but no less dangerous. And no less bound to wake up again to continue its ravages. Such is the nature of all monsters. Oh, it's not so bad once you get used to it. And, on the plus side, my tower in Waterdeep has never been so free of clutter. Sincerely, though, I understand I ask a lot from you with few answers in return. But in time, all will be told. My lady, I bow to your boundless kindness.
Okay, so now we'll talk to Gale again, see if there's any more conversations.
What's on your mind?
Hey, there's not. So now we'll go have this conversation with Wyll here about all that's happened here.
God's damn her straight back to the hells. Just look at me. I did what was right, and Mazora made me pay for it. I'd be hunting devils and demons, she said. Traitors and hypocrites, heartless evils of all sorts, but not Zariel's victims. Not innocent tieflings.
Warlock pacts tend to be unforgiving from what you know of them. Wyll was lucky he didn't face a more severe punishment.
I'll say what I can, but it won't be enough. It's Mazora who grants me the power to conjure armor and cast eldritch blasts. Before I was infected, I could even call hell beasts and summon festering clouds, but I promise you, every thrust of my blade and every flame I sparked was for the good of the coast. I can't utter the terms or circumstances of the pact. I can tell you most all else, but the pact, I'm forbidden, unless Mazora permits it. But I'll say this. The moment I pacted myself to Mazora, I have not regretted for a heartbeat. It was my proudest deed. It was worth the sacrifice. All I can give you on that is my solemn word.
Okay, so we'll talk to him again.
Gale slurped that thing up like a horse with a carrot. I hope he got what he needed from it. It's said that anyone who bathes in the river of blood emerges as one born anew. It's a lot like that, I imagine. I feel the weight of these horns on my head, curling upwards like a mammoth's tusks. I feel these ridges snaking down my neck. Not to mention a few bumps and prongs in unmentionable places. But I haven't seen my reflection just yet. Be my mirror. What do you see? It's because you know the heart lurking under the horns. The people will see a curiosity, maybe even a beast hungry for their souls. But I will slay their monsters, keep them safe, and one day they will see the Blade of Frontiers again. A possibility that's kept me awake countless nights. But I don't have a clue where to start, other than play her games and play by the rules. That's the only language devils listen to. There could well be. She has the blighted thing. What I know of it is simply what has engraved itself upon my memory. My contract is very clear. I can bring Mizora no harm. She'll have to let me out of my pact willingly. The only way out is if I can out-bargain her. We're standing here with nothing but the clothes on our backs and the worms in our heads. We can. I'm sure of it. How glad I am that you see me as more than my patron's pet.
So, just some of the attentions to detail. You can see that Wyll's character portrait has changed to add his horns in. His one good eye has changed to be deep red to reflect a devil's eye.
Well met.
So it's going to be a very interesting storyline that plays out with Wyll as we go. So, last person in camp that we want to talk to is Karlach here.
I'll be honest, soldier. I'm reeling. Wyll hardly knows me, but he chose my life over his. Been a long time since someone stuck their neck out for me like that. You can say that again. When he was chasing me through Avernus, I thought he was just another sad merc. How wrong I was.
Okay, so we'll talk to her again.
I like Gale, but I'm keeping all my good gear well out of sight. Everything fancy he touches meets a grisly end.
Karlach has some of the
Hey,
funniest
soldier.
dialogue in the game.
You did? Wow. That was sound of you. Why'd you do it? Glad to be counted among them. Really glad. Wish I could have been there to watch those ignots crumble, but I'm just happy they're off my tail. Then again, facing them down might have put my tin can into overdrive. Hear that? Infernal engine for a heart. Lets me burn as hot as the hells. Seems to be running in overdrive since I left Avernus. Won't be seeing my mechanic anytime soon, so I'll just make the most of the extra heat. Just don't get too close till I've found a way to calm it down. Well now, maybe I could make his acquaintance. A Titan screw or two might let me keep a little calmer. Maybe even manage a pat or bump without burning someone to death. It's been a long time. Let's go find your friend before I blow a gasket. Lead on.
Okay, so we'll see if we have any unfinished conversation
Hiya.
here.
The year, 10 air. The place, sleepy little town called Baldur's Gate. Our hero, Karlach, a knock-kneed delinquent from the outer city with everything to give and nothing to lose. I was a kid looking for a way to fill my days and make some cash when I fell into the wrong crowd. Worked for a guy I respected. A lot. Turns out the feeling wasn't mutual. Through the jigs and the reels, he made a deal with Zariel behind my back. You know Zariel, right? Archdevil of Avernus. She put this thing in my chest and set me to work. Well, to war. I learned quick how to stay alive. And the engine served me when it came to killing devils. 10 years of that. The stories I could tell. Guy named Gortash. Politician. Inventor. One of these wheeler-dealer types who seems to have a finger in every pie. I guess I was naive to think everything he got up to was above board. What did I know? I saw a job. A good job. With people I liked. Doing work I was good at. Sometimes I'm jealous of that girl. Ugh, to feel so invincible again. Gives me energy. Power. But you've seen it in action. Very hard to control. If I'm excited at all, angry, nervous, delighted, enticed, I burn hot. Hot enough to burn anyone who gets close. I try not to think about it. I still think about it constantly, but, you know, I try. One of these days, I'll sort the whole infernal affair out, get myself cooled off, start making up for lost time. But not today. Soldier? Depends on the type. Ice devils hate an inferno, but that's an easy one. Orthons love projectiles. What they don't love is getting their bombs lobbed right back in their faces. Demons, on the other hand, every demon is absolutely singular. You can't ever think you've got them typed out. Sharp instincts, sharp weapons, and a knack for improvisation. That's the only way to survive them. Anyway, what were we talking about? Funny you should ask. I was just thinking about what would have become of us without that Nautiloid. I mean, I know where I'd be. Trapped in Avernus still, with the Blade of Frontiers on my tail. But what about you? I can picture you getting mixed up in some outrageous shit. Giants, beholders, Thayans, the works. Maybe once we've wrapped up the current shenanigans, we'll rest a bit and find some new heap of troubles to throw ourselves at. Hiya. We were both part of Zariel's inner circle. Her by choice, me by force. In the grand scheme of things, I'm inconsequential to Zariel. Sure, I've got the engine, but I wasn't even her strongest fighter. But she favored me like a child favors a captive pet. Mizora envied the attention, I suppose. I'm sure when Zariel gave her the order to hunt me down, Mizora was delighted. I don't know. You'd think she'd have more important things to do. Devils and their pride. No kidding. The fighting, the chaos, the betrayal. It had the makings of a good stage show, but I did not want to be one of the players.
Okay, so we learned a lot of history about Karlach there. We also delved really deep with the encounter with her and Mizora and Wyll into all the lore behind the Forgotten Realms and the Nine Hells and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into obviously go into it all here, but the 9 levels of hell in the Forgotten Realms, Avernus, Dis, etc. The different types of devils that we've learned about here, the Batezu and the Abishai and imps, you know, all those sort of things as you go. There's a lot of lore here that, if you have experience with it, adds so much to all of these conversations. Obviously, you don't expect everybody to go out and start reading, you know, the monster compendiums or the DM's guides or anything, or any of the books that have been written for that matter, to go through all the lore. But hearing these conversations to somebody who has that experience, I can't tell you how fun it is to be able to hear all of this play out in a video game. It's really so enjoyable for me to hear all of this lore come to life in a video game like this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to continue on with my current party as it is, but I want your input on this as well. Whatever happens, like I said earlier, I'm going to be changing my characters out as they get to certain important portions of the playthrough that have to deal with their origin quests and that sort of stuff. For now, I'm going to keep Lae'zel in the party, but there's a very strong case to be made for swapping Lae'zel out for Karlach as well. So I would like to hear all of your comments as, you know, we go through. I'll probably put up a poll on it this week to see what people would like to see for the majority of the playthrough. But I think I already know what the answer to that is if I put up a poll. Just guessing, of course, but like I say, I think I know what that answer is going to be. But yeah, I'm anxious to put it up and see which direction people would like to see this go. So, having all of my conversations done, there are probably a couple of other quick conversations about what they saw with Gale.
Power, but Gale takes it a bit too literally for my liking. I wonder how he does it. Why he does it. I'm sure all will be revealed in time, but I don't like it. A waste of perfectly good treasure.
So everybody's going to have a reaction to Gale eating an artifact, you know, basically, but it's nothing really important. When we come back here, we can go through the rest of those if they're still here. So auto select here, I don't want to use my raspberries for this, so I'm just going to add in a few and see if we can find one with 4. There's a fish. I actually don't want that, so I'm going to split off 1 raspberry, get me to 40, and whoops. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so looks like Scratch wants to talk with us here. So I don't believe I have any more potions of animal speaking laying around, but I just want to look and make sure. Yeah, the antidotes I had transferred over and that sort of stuff. So Yes. You don't need it to go through this. So let's go talk to Scratch.
The dog pants through a ball held firmly in his mouth.
Okay, so you have some options here to get this back. My animal handling skill is obviously the best.
He relinquishes the ball. It is well chewed and slick with drool. His eyes track the ball avidly. He shuffles on his paws, ready to chase after it.
Okay, so you've received a ball. Now, the ball has a couple of different uses. The first is you can throw it, obviously. And Scratch will go get it, and he will bring it back to you. The other thing that the ball does is, I don't know as if it mentions it when you examine it. No, it doesn't. The other thing that the ball does is we have a new icon that popped up, and this is Find Familiar Scratch. So, summon the best boy. Scratch's keen nose can discover many things hidden around the world. And we are going to kind of show that and illustrate that. Basically, I've got the ball. If I give the ball to Astarion, he is now able to summon Scratch. So whoever has the ball is the one that is able to summon Scratch as a familiar. So it's also kind of a little strange in that if you accidentally sell the ball, whoever had the ball last is still able to summon Scratch. But just be careful when you're selling items off that you don't accidentally sell off the ball, just in case that bugs out or weirds out in some way.
Never a dull moment.
You want to keep the ball with you. So, and we'll illustrate how it goes here. So, here as a ritual, you can now see that we're out of camp. It lights up. So it's just an action. So just like summoning any other familiar. Okay, Scratch is now part of our group. And looking over the map, we're going to go explore this area up here a little bit. And we will see if Scratch finds anything while we're walking around. So Scratch will point, and I wasn't sure if he was doing it there. Yeah, he wasn't. He's just moving around in formation right now. But you will see him kind of head off when you get to something that's hidden. He will head off and kind of like a pointer setter does, or a hunting dog. He will point towards something to identify that there's something hidden there that you can go look at.
Pockets. Let's have a look.
But one thing you definitely want to do is make sure that you don't take Scratch into any dangerous situations or anything like that. Yeah, I wish you could lock items as well, Lord Henry. That seems like a an easy thing to implement from an inventory management perspective, and it's something that had been talked about in the forums as a needed quality of life improvement. I'm just not entirely sure why it was never brought, never implemented. I actually don't know, boss. I don't know what happens to him if he dies. I've always kept him out of combat encounters up to now because, like I said, I have enough experience to know when they're coming and where they are. But, so I don't really know. Not anxious to find out, to tell you the truth, either. Okay, and we've seen this area here. This is where we were, where we picked up the locked chest inside the cave and jumped across. Okay, so Lord Hinder says if he dies, you can summon him again after a short rest, so... Doesn't seem like it's a problem because this, like it says, it's an action and a ritual, but it refreshes every short rest, so... Looks like you can keep him with you and not have to worry about him dying. But still, from an RP perspective, I'm going to make sure that I keep him out of as much of that as I possibly can. So down here toward this area, we're going to be getting into Waukeen's Rest. And we're just exploring around a little bit more. This is where we started the encounter with the first group of gnolls here. And we bypassed around Waukeen's Rest. Okay, so I'm going to quick save here. Like I say, I know it's been said, but I'm hoping that this is delayed a little bit. Because I do want to explore this other area out here first. Going to cast guidance.
I've got a long road ahead.
Smoke. Something's burning.
Okay, so I failed that perception check there. I'm going to move out of the way, have Astarion cast it on himself, and have him try, and we'll just go through the characters here. Okay, and the DC on this is a 10. I've just rolled horrifically bad. Critical fail. Nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. My nat 1 there.
Defender of the people.
Okay, so there it is. So there's jagged rock here. You can move it out of the way, and there's a crevice that you can search. Reading the parchment here, a black silhouette of a winged serpent marks the top of this page. The winged serpent we've actually already seen, I believe. But we're going to learn more about this as we go. And this does not need to go to Astarion. He's overloaded on all of these, so I'm actually just going to pick up all of these. I can't remember if we saw it. I didn't pay attention to it.
At the ready.
When we talked to Rugan. Trying not to be too spoilery until we get into it, but if we've already seen it, I just missed it. Okay. So here we go, entering into Waukeen's Rest. And we're going to come up here, and we're definitely going to break our group, and we're going to take Lae'zel with us and move up here toward this doorway.
An efficient path. I hear shouting. Someone needs help.
Grand Duke Ravengard could be inside. Don't just stand there. Push!
Just barely passed.
Inside, hurry! We don't have much time.
And for this first part, like I say, I hope that they've changed this a little bit, but this was timed a little bit. In that you definitely wanted to get in here and follow them up here into this upper area
Cautious steps.
as quickly as you could.
We go up in flames.
So we're going to go ahead and hack down this broken door here.
Come! I'm afraid proper thanks must wait.
Okay, and then we're going to go to our bard out here and make sure she moves up here into this area. Okay, good. So
If not over.
now we can talk to Chancellor Floric here.
Fresh air. At last. Your boldness is a blessing. I'm in your debt.
Counselor, are you all right?
It takes more than mere fire to break me, Yuva. Now listen close, Fist. Duty calls. Drow have taken Grand Duke Alder Ravengard westward, if my eyes and ears can be believed. Gauntlet, report to the man and send for reinforcements. We must find the Duke.
On your command, Counselor.
The rest of you, count the dead. Take word of their sacrifice to this city. And you, I must ask again for your aid. Please, rescue Ravengard from his drow captors. The Council will reward you for your effort. May I trust you'll see it through? A champion indeed. He's the invisible force holding Baldur's Gate together. Without him, the city faces collapse. In fact, I fear that may have been the intention of those who abducted him.
I don't think this is going to work. I should have had... Okay. So changing characters takes you right to the reward section. I should have had Wyll with me during that conversation to get an additional couple lines of dialogue through it, but I didn't. So trying to change out of it, I was going to try and move him up close and see if it would work. So it skips right to the reward section here. You get to choose one of 3 weapons here. This is all based around the lightning charge mechanic. Now the lightning, yeah, and that's why I was trying to move him up there, Eric, by changing to his character. It just defaulted to this reward section here first. So these 3 are based around the lightning charge mechanic. Now this is not a tabletop thing. This is something that Larian came up with as a new mechanic, and these items here are one of the easier ways to allow you to gain lightning charges, and then your other gear items can better allow you to utilize those lightning charges. So for instance, I don't think we have anything on Wyll. We do not, that talks about it. But here, for instance, the speedy light feat that Lae'zel is carrying, so whenever she dashes, she's going to gain 3 lightning charges, and then whenever she has lightning charges, any attacks that she deals against metal constructs and foes wearing metal armor gain advantage. Okay? So the synergies, it's another level of synergy that's brought in based on the items that you have.
Defender of the people.
So these three as weapons allow you to just make a regular attack that you would normally do against somebody and gain lightning charges, as opposed to dashing or jumping or doing something else that you may not want to do. If you're going to be attacking anyway, these weapons are a fairly easy way to gain lightning charges. Now, the trident is a useful weapon. You have to be proficient with it to use it. It is a versatile weapon in that it can be one-handed or two-handed, and you can throw it as well. The Jolt Shooter is a longbow, so it's a 1d8 weapon, and whenever you deal damage with it, you gain 2 lightning charges. And then the Spell Sparkler is whenever you deal damage with a spell or a cantrip, you gain 2 lightning charges. Now, you may not want to be utilizing the longbow if you have something else that's better. You might not want to be using the trident for somebody who's proficient with it, again, if you have something better. However, at this point, we don't have a whole lot that's better from a spell casting perspective, so allowing Wyll to constantly gain lightning charges can be a benefit. And lightning charges do one of 2 things. So as soon as you get lightning charges, you have +1 to attack rolls. So that means any of his spells that are using an attack roll, like Scorching Ray, are going to have a +1 to that attack roll. And then once you've gained 5 lightning charges, they are consumed the next time you deal damage, and you deal a 1d8 lightning damage. Okay? So being able to gain 2 lightning charges, and this is whenever you deal damage with a cantrip, and you're going to see, or a spell, and you're going to see how this works out with multiple damage dealing spells, for instance, like Magic Missile or Scorching Ray that have multiple rays, or Eldritch Blast for that matter. The Spell Sparkler can get him lightning charges really, really quickly. So you can see Wyll wants to talk to us. Like I said, I forgot I had ungrouped the rest of my party here before this. I don't think moving him up here is going to bring him back into things, but we'll see.
Moonrise Towers, along the old road. That place is cursed. Few could survive there, unless darker forces are at work. This was no random attack. The Grand Duke was their target. Thank you. And should your courage falter, remember the Duke's generosity. Approach the towers with care. The land itself has been swallowed in shadow. I will seek reinforcements and join you when I can. Fist to work.
And yes, Eric, that's a very popular choice for Astarion. Astarion being a high elf, he has longbow proficiency by default, and giving him something, for instance, like the speedy light feat, where he's going to be dashing all of the time because rogues dash everywhere they go, gaining lightning charges that way, and then also gaining lightning charges from the Jolt Shooter can mean he's constantly full of lightning charges all the time, basically. With Astarion, the things that are going to limit him is the synergies that are going to be available, simply because a lot of the other items that are armor-based that go along with it, like for instance the Speedy Light feat are medium armor.
Someone there.
So with Astarian here, for instance, Astarian's highlighted here. So medium armor, I have a proficiency with, but see, he's not proficient with medium armor. So I have proficiency on Lae'zel, but I do not have proficiency with medium armor on Astarian. So the synergies are going to be a little more limited until you get him access to a couple of other, or another armor type. I am going to be doing that. So the Jolt Shooter could be useful for it, more useful for Astarian once that happens. However, we all know that lightning charges and the mechanic behind him is really... all of these items are really more of an early game type thing anyway. An Act 1 through portions of Act 2 thing. Once you get into Act 3, all the gear is going to be so much more higher in level and what it can do that the Jolt Shooter tends to, and the Spell Sparkler for that matter, tend to lose their luster a little bit when you get to that point. So, but for now, this is something I'm going to equip here on Wyll and go from there. But yes, there are, yeah, for like Lord Henry said, if you're going for specific builds that are lightning based, having access to the additional lightning damage that's going to be synergizing with everything else you're doing, such as throwing water on everybody and doubling your lightning damage and all that sort of stuff, it can extend the usefulness of those things. So now we're going to go ahead and talk to Wyll here.
Shit. You can put distance between you and yesterday, but you'll never leave it fully behind. Father's words. Hard to argue with them. Floric spoke true. I'm a Grand Duke's son.
Not just a Grand Duke. Ravengard has more power and influence than anyone.
You heard right. My father and I were close once upon a time, until he disowned me and cast me out of Baldur's Gate. I can't tell you more. The pact forbids it. My lips are quite literally sealed. He made me an exile. That said, I'm not about to let him suffer at the hands of his captors. I've been asking myself the same question. What makes a Duke of Baldur's Gate so interesting to the Drow? Even the houses of Menzoberranzan would have little use for my father. No, this is no Drow plot. These absolute nutters, these true souls are behind his abduction. His absence alone will sow chaos in the city. If they were to infect him, he could lead Baldur's Gate to ruin. All the more reason to find him. The Absolute has seized not just my father, but the future of the Sword Coast. I know, and you're right. My story is one of two men. The Blade of Frontiers, a man hunting the fiends who prey on the weak and claw at the coast. And Wyll Ravengard, the memory of a memory. A man who belongs to the past. I wanted you to know the Blade, not the shadow he left behind.
Okay, so we learned there that Duke Ravengard is Wyll's father. This entire plot line was completely rewritten in between early access and the full release. That's why all the voice acting for
Objective noted.
for Wyll had to be redone with a new voice actor and all of that sort of stuff. So it's really added a whole new element to the game. So while things are burning here, we can see that we have somebody, Benryn, who is alive but pinned and asking for help. And we're going to go deal with this. And there's a specific way that I go about dealing with this. Everyone is, and again, I'm just going to quick save in case of glitches or bugs. Like I say, it didn't bug out last time I did it, but I'm going to stand back from the door and shoot the door. And with 7 hit points left, I'm going to go into turn-based mode here. Okay, not a big deal. I'm just going to end my turns.
Delicious.
And there are multiple ways to go about doing this, Philip, and we'll go through. I can talk about a few of them as we go. But yes, there are multiple different ways to do this. There's another approach from this direction, through this broken door over here that puts you closer to Benryn. However, if you do this in turn-based mode, it doesn't really matter where you go in from. Okay, you stand back from the door, because if the door, once you kill the door, an explosion happens, and anybody standing around in this area is going to get knocked off down onto the lower level, and you're going to take damage from it. So here, what I'm going to do is move out. Well, I'm actually not. I'm just going to see where I can jump to. It will move me. Okay, and now I'm going to go over and talk to Benryn.
The fire! Hurry! Get this thing off me!
Okay, and I've got a strength check I can make here.
Almost. Thank you. Now, how the hell do we get out of here? Right. I'll try to keep up.
Okay. So, he's going to... Well, he should get back up.
What a day.
Okay, so yes, he moved back up. Now, you just need to make your way back out of this room as quickly as possible. And once you're out of this room, everything is fine. So, looks like the chest is burning. I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case. Sorry, I'm just thinking about how to go about doing this now. So I'm going to jump with Benryn and then move him as far as we can.
All needed.
Looking ahead.
Keep your blade close.
I could use one. I don't really need one for this, though. However, I was hoping that the chest here wasn't going to catch fire. But it did. So now I'm going to have an issue with this, and I'm just trying to think about how I want to go about doing this. Because there's two things that I don't know. The first is whether I open this door right now, if it's going to explode.
Like will be done.
If it does, Benryn is going to get knocked, is going to take explosion damage and get knocked down here, and it could possibly kill him, and I would be a long way from this door having to make my way back up here. I'm going to wait another turn for this.
Still alive. So
and move
that's progress.
Benryn out of the way. Just to be on the safe side. Because even if that chest breaks, I'm still going to be okay for a while. So I'm going to move out of the way there. I'm going to have Lae'zel dash. Okay, so it doesn't, which is good. I'm going to move her to here. Now I'm going to jump, and you can jump to a spot. I can't remember which one it is. So there's fire there, and there's fire there. You can jump to a spot in here that's right around this table where you don't take fire damage. It's kind of snapping me into one of two spots where I'm going to take fire damage, but I don't really care. The fire damage isn't going to be enough to really hurt me or kill me while I'm in here. So I'm going to go pick this chest up. Okay. And now I'm going to use the rest of my movement to start making my way back out of the room.
At least things have stayed interesting.
And I could have thrown water on me and that sort of stuff, but with all the rest of my characters out here, it would take so long to get up there into that area to either cast create water or something like that, that it's just not worth it. Because of the hit point pool that Lae'zel has, I don't really need it. So she's encumbered, so her jump distance is going to be a lot shorter. But I do want to dash to maximize her movement. I do want to have her jump to get as far as she can. And then get her moved out of the room.
Objective noted.
So now she's burning. She's going to take another turn, another single turn of fire damage, but again, it's not a big deal. So I'll just wait for that to go through and wear off, and then we'll exit out of turn-based mode. Yeah, create water. There's a couple of problems with it. First, create water does not put out the flames in this room permanently.
Action, not reaction.
It will, if you're in turn-based mode, create an area where there's not a fire surface. But after that next turn is done, the water will evaporate and the flames will come back in that area. It's not a permanent solution. This burning fire back here just continues to spread. And it will refresh that fire surface as we go. And now that this whole upper area has started to catch on fire, the entire inn itself is now going to have fire spreading across it. Especially in the areas that are underneath here, where the kitchen is and that sort of stuff. So now we can go ahead and exit out of turn-based mode, and we can escort him out of the building. And there's just a whole bunch of misclicking happening here as the camera gets all weird. And you can see the screen shaking and hear in the background, the fire is still continuing to go. Once you get him outside, then he's done. So,
Careful, I bite.
I'm going to bring Astarion back in here as quickly as I can, just to start searching a bunch of things on this side. And that's because there are a bunch of camp supplies here in these areas that you can search for a while until the flames start to spread enough and you can see how they're spreading down here. I'm getting really tired of that Z hotkey selecting the one that only works after I dash. Okay, so you can see it's spreading. The flames are now kind of heading up, so you have to be a little careful with where you take Astarion in here, or whichever character that you're in here searching with. And you can, for instance, take this water barrel and it will put out the flames again for a little bit. So in here you can again pick this barrel up, put it in here, and for a little bit it's going to put the flames out. But you can see that the steam cloud is going to go away. And things will start coming back again. The other thing about creating a water surface is if you have the boots that electrify water whenever you step on it, it can be a little dangerous to you when you're walking in here and using create water. So that's why I tend to avoid it for the most part. And you can see the flames on the ground over there. They're just spreading more and more around. So in early access, as soon as this thing was loaded, these flames started spreading. So things got really out of hand really quickly. Because you hadn't even gone through the quest, or hadn't even gotten to the opening the door yet, and you were no longer able to complete anything inside Waukeen's Rest. Because everything was just burnt down. So it was a bad deal. There was a lot of complaints about it in the forums, so I'm glad to see that they fixed it and they've keyed it now to opening up those doors up there. So now I'm going to group everybody back up here. And we can do a little looking around while we're here, because there are a lot of dead goblins and that sort of stuff.
Defender of the people.
So, with Wyll, he does have speak. Oh, he's not. It's not equipped. I was like, why? I don't see the icon. So we're gonna get speak with the dead, and we're going to cast it on the Drow Raider here, just because I know that one works.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Zhentarim. From Sharth. Before the Absolute. Male.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. If you know a lot of the lore behind the drow and that sort of stuff, but again, not going to go into all of that.
To Moonrise Towers. Raid. Retrieval for the Absolute.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Okay, so now you can see we do have some other candidates for Speak with the Dead.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Absolute wants him.
The corpse remains silent. It does not know.
Krug, Hunter. Come, temple, close. Fell, dagger, leg, stupid.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Okay, so we're gonna split our group here, and with Lae'zel, we're gonna go around and start searching all of these bodies that are out here. And actually, while we do that, we will get her to drop this chest on the ground, so she's no longer encumbered, and then we'll continue searching. Okay, a lot of average things. And remember, your flaming fists are still going to be marked as steel. The other flaming fists that are around here aren't going to like you looting their dead compatriots.
Impressive armor. Drow handiwork.
So we'll look at the drow armor here in a second. And we do have another opportunity for Speak with the Dead over there.
A hero at heart. Keeping pace.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Gauntlet. Mirileth. Flaming fist. Baldur's Gate.
The corpse remains silent. She doesn't know.
Dead or dying.
You're going to learn much more about the Flaming Fist as we get farther through the playthrough. This Flaming Fist mercenary is not marked as steel, so if you want to take the gold, you can. And I'm going to take Wyll into the house over here. And we have some corpses that we can search here. We do have some stuff scattered around in here. If you hold Alt, you can see it. It's normally a lot easier inside these cluttered environments just to hold Alt. and see what's available to you while you're looking around. Okay, you can read the stained book here, and it's just, this is a gnomish book, talking about, you know, being brave and being strong, basically. Yeah, talk or speak with the dead spell can be very, very useful. And as I had mentioned previously, if you're approaching the closed room from this door, then you encounter Mirileth here first as you come up the stairs.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Mirileth, farmer. From Eltergard, traveling, sister's wedding, finding husband Benryn inside, door locked, trapped, fire. Inside, room, top floor. Dowry for sister in barn.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Okay, and you can search Mirileth here for her gold. It's not a problem if you take it. Then you can continue on for searching the rest of this. And got a couple of camp supplies sitting around here. But that's really about the end of it.
This better be good.
And then, as mentioned here, this takes you into this area where you can break in to rescue Benryn from this side. Now, in updating our journal with rescue the trapped man here. So, he was obviously looking for her. She told us that her sister's dowry is hidden in a barn somewhere near the tavern. And again, here I'll illustrate this point here with create water here. So I'm going to cast create water over this entire fire surface here using Rain Dancer. It's going to put the fire surface out just for a little bit. Okay, and you can see what's happening to him, and that's because of the steam cloud being created in this area, and the flames just come back because there's a fire source that you can't put out. It's there. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's why using the create water spells can be a little hazardous to your health, so to speak, if you're going through here. So just be aware of it. I'm going to dismiss Scratch. I'm going to go up here and make my way through. There's a little spot right here you can jump to that is not on fire, and then you can jump over here and, well, into that corner. I just misplaced my jump. And you can make it through here without taking any fire damage or dealing with the flames at all. So it's not that big a deal. No, no, no.
Keep your distance, darling.
Need to start using those more often. I don't like the click on portrait thing not working all the time. Okay. So you can manage getting through this area without having to deal with the fire. There's just really no point in doing it. So now I'm going to move my bard here into the stable.
Looks like there's a chest
And we
buried in
passed
that
our
hay.
perception check. The perception check's a DC 0, so you're failing it with a 1, basically. And here is the Dowry ring. I'm going to head back here. And I'm going to go talk to Ben here.
I need a quick word.
Miri! Miri! No. It can't be. I need to see.
Okay, and this was another portion of this quest that was horribly bugged in early access. Sometimes he would not make his way in here, and you would actually have to go throw Miri's body out of the window down here onto the ground for him to be able to see her. So sometimes it allowed you to complete the quest, and sometimes it didn't. So we're going to talk to Benryn again, and now you can see once he's up here, she's marked as steel.
Miri! No. Gods, no. You should have stayed. You should have been with me. I was in our room. We had a fight. If I just kept my mouth shut about that bloody dowry, she'd still be here. You did? Please. She'd want her sister to have it.
You have the option of keeping it.
I know this doesn't change anything, but it helps. Thank you. I need some time alone with her. To say goodbye.
And Astarion being with you, being the cold-hearted bloodsucker that he is going to disapprove of you giving the dowry back. Okay, so I'm going to, while I'm out here, actually, yeah, I need to pick up the chest and take it with me. I'm just mismanaging that chest a lot here in this playthrough. Group up over here and then bring Lae'zel, have her pick up this chest again.
Found and taken.
Should be encumbered, but I'm not too worried about it. Her jump is still going to be enough to move me around where I want to go.
Is that blood?
Okay, then I can group everybody up and just kind of move them a little bit farther in here away from the flames. And now I will go to Lae'zel and have her... Jeez, and then my bard walks all the way back there almost into the flames again. And somebody actually said that that they thought that my ideas about how bad the pathing were not entirely correct.
eager for
I
battle.
get more and more frustrated every time I see something happen.
What now?
Okay, so now we can lockpick
Crooked touch.
this here. It's a DC of 20. I'm going to add in guidance. So I've got a 10 to 13 bonus here on this. I failed it. I knew before it even happened because I heard the little sound. So with this, I can just reuse thieves' tools, or use more thieves' tools. Pass. Didn't hear the little hiss.
I've got a long road ahead.
And it's weird. There's a rendering bug there in certain locations. Okay, so this is the hammer raft. Now this is a very, very interesting item, and some of you saw me utilize this quite a bit on my barbarian playthrough. So it's a two-handed maul, which means it's 2d6. It's the same base damage as a great sword is. The hammer haft gives you two other benefits. The secondary benefit is that whenever you miss an attack, you deal 1 bludgeoning damage anyway. That's going to become more of a thing as we go through this, where even if you miss an attack, you're going to deal some sort of small amount of damage. This is just 1 bludgeoning damage even when you miss. However, the main trait here is shockwave. So whenever you jump, you deal a 1d4 thunder damage in a radius around you when you land. This can be quite useful, especially moving your main melee character into an area where there are multiple enemies around you to start off, attacking that group. It's basically another 1d4 thunder damage when you initiate that combat. The thing about Shockwave also is that it damages everything in a 3-meter radius. It's not just enemies. It can damage chests, it can damage things laying on the ground, like potions. It can damage your own party members. It does not discriminate. So that's the downside to utilizing hammer raft. The other thing is the thunder damage is sound based. So if you're trying to sneak around behind somebody and you jump to a location while you're sneaking, the thunder from landing with it could possibly give you away and alert the enemies to your presence. So it's a really interesting weapon. However, it's not something I'm going to concentrate on unless maybe situationally I want to use it on Karlach if Karlach decides to come into, if we decide to bring Karlach into the party. One way or another, it's a really, really interesting weapon. So we also, while we're in there, picked up Speedy Reply. Speedy Reply is a scimitar, which is the tied for the highest damage dealing light finesse weapon with the short sword. Whenever you hit an enemy with it, they gain momentum for 2 turns, and momentum is just a 1.5 meter increase in movement speed while that is done, or while you have momentum. So it basically gives you a little additional movement speed once you land an attack. Right now I've got a longsword +1 equipped, which with a shield is 1d8. So it's more base damage if I choose to use it. However, the Speedy Reply would gain me more movement speed for whoever I want to use it for. So for the Steel Forged Sword here and the Dagger +1, The steel forged sword is also light and finesse. So if we have the speedy reply here, and then the steel forged sword in the offhand, now speedy reply is giving me the same base damage, and I've upped my offhand damage. So, not that I'm going to be concentrating on dual wielding with the Astarion by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a straight base damage upgrade over what I had previously been utilizing. And the last thing that we picked up was Reason's Grasp. Reason's Grasp operates a little differently in the full version than it did in early access. It operates much more like the tooltip says. Ever Vigilant is whenever you choose to end your rage, you gain 15 hit points. So it's a barbarian-focused item. And in the early access, it didn't matter if you chose to end your rage early or whether rage ended at the end of combat. You were always going to get the 15 temporary hit points. And those 15 temporary hit points stayed even after you removed the gloves. So things work a little differently now in that to gain the 15 temporary hit points, you have to end your rage early before the combat ends. If it ends due to you not doing damage or the end of combat, then you don't gain the 15 temporary hit points. At least in when I was testing it earlier. Things, I didn't do extensive testing on it, so that could have been situational where that wasn't applying, but I'm pretty sure it acts differently now in the full version than it did in early access. So, and I think that was all of the weapons that we had and armor that we had picked up. Yes, that was it. Okay, so we do have a dead halfling here we can search, and this comes up with the sweet key. And we can continue searching around the back of Waukeen's Rest here. And you can see the screen shaking. There's still more burning going on. Yeah, I actually got my first experience with how messed up Hammerhaft, or how much Hammerhaft can really mess things up when I went to the Goblin camp. And I was sneaking around all of the sleeping bugbears upstairs and the sleeping goblins upstairs who were drunk, and I jumped down from the top. And as soon as I landed, it woke everybody up and combat initiated. And I was like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. They're going to hear the thunderclap of me landing. And I just didn't think about it. So you have to be a little more careful. And we did find the dirt mound here. Yeah, what'll happen is the flames, Philip, for that chest do not always reach back to the chest. Sometimes the chest will be sitting in an area where there's no flames. That's what I was hoping for. However, this time the flames spread back to and started burning the chest. After a while, the chest will start taking fire damage. It will burn the chest up, and then when the chest burns, all the items in it will drop on the ground. If those items drop on the ground in an area that is on fire, they will start taking damage and they will burn up. So yes, you can lose the hammer raft in there if you don't pick it up from that chest, or you pick up that chest itself. You will end up losing it. So I'm going to go ahead and take a short rest here just to get some hit points back. And again, I don't have a Speak with Animals potion. But you can talk to the frightened ox here. And you have an animal handling check here.
His hide twitches, every muscle primed to bolt. He's terrified.
That's a nice roll.
The ox calms, his tail swishing a satisfied arc.
Okay, if you have speak with animals, you learn that that he was the one that killed the goblin out here after the goblin killed this ox. So you learn a little bit more of the story there. Okay, so we're going to make our way over here, and you probably saw it. We do have a character outline in here.
This is the spot Rugan marked. Doesn't look like much.
Okay, so this is the spot that Rugan told us about.
You spot a man crouching between the shelves, just as he spots you.
Bugger!
Okay, so if you played the cave encounter slightly differently, and Rugan didn't give you the passphrase, you have some other ways to play this out, or you can just attack and get through that way. However, I've got the passphrase.
Oh, helms, orbs. I thought you were flaming fist. Well, down you go then. They'll be on us soon, so if you're looking to trade, you best be quick. Entrance is hidden behind the wardrobe. Here's the key.
Okay, and he gives you the engraved key. Now, you have to be kind of... There's a bunch of stuff to search in here, and you're going to find a bunch of rags, you're going to find a bunch of camp supplies, and all that sort of stuff in here. And you can fill up on anything you want in here, because you're going to have an opportunity to sell your items here really quickly. So if you wanted to pick up all of this stuff and maximize your gold, you certainly have that opportunity here. So just be prepared for that. That you can go through and search all of this and take everything and sell it all. I'm still a little bit selective about what I'm taking. I'm not just picking up everything here. I am, however, picking up a few shovels. And there's a reason for that. Which we won't get to see for a little bit. But I am picking them up. All will be revealed in the future. So yeah, I just saw the conversation happening over here. On mouse and keyboard, the tilde key or the grave key, whichever you want to call it, the squiggly key above tab highlights characters that are seen on the screen. You have to be able to see them. It's not going to highlight ones that are out of your line of sight. The only reason I was able to see him was through a glitch in the meshes over here, that there's actually a line of sight to see through there to see him. So, but yes, it's normally whenever you see somebody, you can hit that key to have them highlighted. You don't have to, though. I mean, you can obviously leave it turned off. So, bunch of crates and chests and that sort of stuff, trunks to search out here with all sorts of little items in them. And like I said, feel free to pick all these up if you want. I'm only interested in a few shovels, and I think I've got enough now that now I'm just going to look and see if there are any more camp supplies and that sort of stuff in here. Okay, and then actually I forgot about this area here. And the sphere that doesn't do anything if you interact with it, but you certainly can. Okay, so now I'm down here in the Zhentarim basement, and again, there's more searching to be done down here. The vases aren't going to have anything. The crates and trunks, however, you're going to find quite a bit more camp supplies down here. The deadly salamis are back, so actually I will not send that one to camp. I will pick that up. And on our way out of here, chat, if you will remind me, I will try and dip the salami in a fire surface and see what happens. Okay, but just a bunch more camp supplies, and that's the only reason that I'm searching these, is because I know that there's a bunch of camp supplies. However, I'm about to illustrate a point. So, searching this barrel here. I don't know if I can dip it in a candelabra or not. But yes, for this is purely for the entertainment value. For those of you who don't know, the salami does deal damage. Does 1d4 bludgeoning damage. In one of my previous live streams, it got equipped by accident, and I actually killed a goblin with it. So let's see if we can dip our salami in the candelabra here. Looks like we can. This is so stupid. So yes, our salami is now doing an additional 1d4 fire damage. So this is great. I love it.
Another day, another fight.
So, but yes, you can wield the salami as a weapon, and it doesn't look like it takes any damage from the flames. So feel free to be a salami warrior if you would like. But yes, there's nothing funnier than accidentally killing a goblin with a salami. I went up to attack it, and I swung on it, and I was like, wow, that was a really low damage roll. Why did I get such a low damage roll? And then I realized I was wielding a salami. This is also the engraved key. There's another way for you to get the key here, depending upon your interactions that we had upstairs. And this is just hidden in a random chest. So one more thing to think about when you're searching all of these things. I tend to search everything anyway, but for those of you who don't, be wary of or realize the fact that you might miss out on things to make, you know, your adventuring easier. So this is a book about Enver Gortash. We learned about Gortash a little bit ago, and we're going to have more interactions with Gortash, obviously, as we go. But basically telling you that the Zhentarim have been kind of kicked out of the illegal arms business by Gortash. And Gortash is obviously not a good guy. And that's going to be seriously expanded upon as we go through the playthrough. Yeah, I can't remember exactly which playthrough it was. I killed him in the encounter outside of the cave where you meet Rugan. So if you go through my previous live streams, you can find the chapter marker where I talk about that, and you can review them until you find which one it was. I went up, I climbed up to the top, if I remember right. I climbed up to the top of the hill up there. Or no, it wasn't there. It was in the encounter outside of the gate to the Druid's Grove. I climbed up to the top of the hill and killed a goblin up there, and yeah, killed him with a salami. So here's the hidden stairs that were unlocked by the engraved key. So we're gonna head down here. We get our waypoint, which is good. Now we can make our way down around here. We're going to get a quick save for a reason. We can do some more searching of some barrels down here. And again, more camp supplies. So this is, and I've told people this before, the amount of camp supplies that are in this game trivialize the long rest, short rest mechanic. This isn't something, I think the camp supplies were kind of introduced to try and manage the short rest, long rest mechanic that's in tabletop. However, the abundance of it means that you don't have to do anything. You can just long rest after every fight, almost, if you wanted to. And it really trivializes action economy. So that's why you're going to see me not long resting all the time, even though I could. Just because I don't really agree with that design decision by Larian in the game. There's just so many camp supplies you don't have to worry about it. So we've got another chest here that we can search. And then we're just going to walk out here real quick because you saw holding shift that there are detection cones out here.
That's far enough. What's your business down here? Answer honestly and maybe we'll kill you clean.
Hold on. That's the lass who saved us from the gnolls. Let her in.
You revealed our location. That tongue gets any looser, Rugan, I'll cut it out. Come down then. Seems you're a friend of the family.
Okay, now that encounter can go very much differently based upon your encounter with Rugan earlier. So be prepared that entire encounter and what's happening down here in this area can be entirely different. So if you've stolen from Rugan, Rugan is not going to be up there to introduce you. Rugan is actually going to be having the crap beat out of him, and he's going to be being tortured. And Ollie is going to be dead. If this encounter up here turns hostile, that perception check becomes a lot more important. The perception checks down here are DC 20. They are incredibly hard to pass. Now, with me having a friendly welcome here, I don't have to worry about it as much. But I will try. Okay, and there... Actually, we had 3 people that passed it. That's pretty good. So, yeah, Wyll rolled a 20. Astarian rolled a 20. And Lae'zel rolled a 19. So we had 2 nat 20s and a 19 on that roll. And I rolled a 5. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah, that sounds just like my luck. These granite rocks are triggers for traps, and going down here, you're going to find multiple ones of these.
Can't give up now.
So if you've chosen the hostile way, you're going to find another one down here.
Trap.
Wow.
Be cautious.
Rolled a 17. Wow, I'm rolling. Then you're going to find another one down here. Here. So trying to find those to disarm them can be incredibly hard. Okay? Once you're down here,
Hope you weren't followed me.
What's that?
there's a lever here that you can pass a perception check, which is only DC 15, to disable all of those. So if you've chosen a hostile encounter method, then it's probably easier to come up top, Misty Step down to the bottom, and then hopefully perceive that lever over here to turn those off, as opposed to trying to make all the perception checks, because you're probably not going to. I just got incredibly lucky there. So there's a note here talking about the explosives. Basically, what's found out here is that because of the flaming fist upstairs, they're going to remove this hideout and cover their tracks in doing so. And as part of that, they're going to try and blow this place up. So we'll learn more about those here in a minute. But first, I'm going to break my group, and I'm going to head up to the top. And you want to go up top here first. And here's the symbol of the winged serpent. We learned about that in the cache that was outside of Waukeen's Rest. I couldn't remember if we had seen that symbol or not, but the winged serpent is the symbol of the Zhentarim. So that cache that we found outside was a Zhentarim cache. And you want to talk to Xeris before you do anything else.
I owe you one for saving my people. The Zhentarim look out for their own, even if it's Rugan. That's worth some coin. And my thanks. Our trader can show you some of our more exotic items now, but don't delay. This place is likely to be rubble soon. Someone kidnapped a duke, right on our bloody doorstep. The Flaming Fist will need someone to blame. I don't plan on it being us.
Okay, so she gives us a reward for this, and the reward is Herald, which is just awesome. And she also said that she's giving us access to more.
Now. That's worth something in Baldur's Gate.
We've become
Assuming we make it back there in one piece.
a friend to the Zhentarim, and she's now giving us access to some of the more exotic items that are able to be sold down here. So you want to go up and talk to her before you go down here and interact with Brem. The other thing that we're going to do is we're definitely going to group everybody up, because I want to have access to guidance here. We're going to talk to Brem.
Well, don't you cut a fine figure? Want your portrait done? If you have the gold, my pet artist will make you a most heroical likeness. Let's say we're his patrons, yeah? Found him wandering the wilds alone. He needs protection. And if his paintings cover our costs, so much the better, eh? Are you looking to buy him? I'm open to offers, mate. Threats? Not so much.
Okay, so we have some persuasion options here to be able to do it. As a bard, I have advantage on this persuasion check, and you're going to need it. So with my charisma bonuses and everything else, and then adding in guidance on top of it, I have a really good chance of passing this. But it's not a low DC, it's a 15 DC. And those type of scores are what make a bard just as valuable at conversation interactions as having a rogue is at lockpicking and sleight of hand stuff.
What? Kill him and the price of his drawings goes up? Bloody clever, that. Go on, then. But don't kill him here. He's going to be a bleater. I know it.
Now we can talk to Oscar.
I can't say I've ever been bought before. How much did I fetch? No, don't tell me. There's nothing so depressing as learning one's true value. Well, you should at least know what you've paid for. I am the Oscar Fevras, at your service.
That's a funny interaction.
A genuine pleasure. I'm in your debt, as is my patron. My betrothed, I should say. Assuming Lady Janeth still wishes to marry me after our little, falling out.
You recall a recent scandal. A patriarch of Baldur's Gate who wished to marry a commoner.
I did not run away. A date was never set. There were complications. Before my fame, my patron, there was another woman. One I planned to spend my life with. But when Lady Janeth offered me a future, well, it felt only right to mention my past. Right, but unwise. I was forced to retreat into the countryside to paint and to clear my head. To choose, I suppose. Oh, absolutely none. Fame and wealth suit me very well, no doubt. And yet, I think of that first love, and I hesitate. Likely I'm going mad. Regardless, we have more immediate concerns. Your reward once I've returned to the city, for one. Say, I don't suppose you could spare some coin, could you? Ease the discomforts of the road some. A hero to the hilt. Seek me out in the city, truly. Beneath my brush, you'll live forever. Until Baldur's Gate, then.
Okay, so that interaction is something that you will follow up on in Act 3 later on. And you also freed him from the Zhentarim, and they don't really feel bad about it. So now we can go ahead and talk to Brem here. And again, you want to be careful when you're walking around down here when you're clicking on them, because most of the items down here are marked as steel. So just be careful.
Something I can help you with? Of course. Got some interesting stock for a friend of the family.
Okay, now Brem has a wide variety of things that he can sell, and they will change. So what you get the first time you come down here is set a very long time ago, so it's not like you can just reset him by saving and before you drop down here and then coming in again. But his items can be very, very good. And one of them that is very, very good are these gloves here. The Gloves of Thievery as good as Astarion is already at picking locks and disarming traps, the Gloves of Thievery trivialize that even more, because now he can have advantage on sleight of hand checks. It's to the point now where it's almost ridiculous how easy it is for him to pick locks and to steal things and to pickpocket and all of that sort of stuff. The Gloves of Thievery are another one of those must-have type of items for Astarion. It's just something you need to have. And he's not going to, have any pain giving up the Fleet Fingers to get in the bonus jump action. The Gloves of Thievery are just, they're just way too good. So the ultimate use for these really is when you're in combat, utilizing other gloves that may enhance your damage dealing ability or your ability to move around the battlefield. But then when you get to a chest or something, or you need to pickpocket, definitely put those on. For now, there's nothing that's really enhancing my abilities enough that I really care about swapping them back and forth and in and out all the time. Just buy them, put them on. You'll see that his lock picking and sleight of hand stuff just now goes completely through the roof. So you also have the Jolty Vest. Now this is another one of those lightning charge items that we talked about previously. This is medium armor with a 14 armor class. You take 1 less slashing damage from it, and you have counter shock. So when you have lightning charges and somebody hits you, whoever attacked you has to pass a dexterity saving throw or they become shocked. Now, shocked is a condition that means they cannot take reactions. They have disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws using dexterity. So it's not the greatest thing, except for the fact that they can't take reactions. So there are a lot of things where it can be beneficial to have disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws for dexterity. For instance, web and other CC type areas where you're trying to keep people from moving around them and they damage you and now they have disadvantage on checks to be able to move through that. It's just more situational for me, and it's not something that I normally utilize in my playthroughs. The Giant Breaker, however, is actually really good. For early game right now, we have a heavy crossbow +1. The Giant Breaker is also a heavy crossbow +1. However, it comes with the heavy hitter trait, which means that when you hit a target, they're reeling for 2 turns. Every target that is reeling has a -1 to their attack rolls. So it's basically an instantaneous 5% drop in their chance to hit you. So there's no reason not to pick up Giant Breaker for one of your characters who's able to wield it. It's just going to be a straight upgrade over any of the other things that she's wielding or any that they're wielding at that time, for the most part. So the Titan String Bow is another one of those, and this is another one of those high strength character type things. This weapon deals additional damage equal to your strength modifier. So for Lae'zel, I believe her strength modifier is +3 right now. So for a longbow, this would be 1d8 +5 for her, but it's not a +5 to hit. It's still a +1 to hit. Well, with her dex, it's +2 to hit, but she's going to add in 3 additional damage on the end of it. So it's really a 1d8 +5 as far as the damage portion goes. Now, the Giant Breaker is 1d10 +2 for a total of 3 to to 12 total damage that can be done. That works out to be just one maximum damage number less than what the Titan String Bow can do. So it's something that it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. However, I prefer the reeling status effect more than I prefer the extra possible 1 damage. So the gloves of Hails of Thorn are just exactly what it sounds like. They're gloves that allow you once per short rest to cast Hail of Thorns. Not a big thing for me to consider on my playthroughs, but Hail of Thorns is a very useful spell to have. It's just not something, if you don't have any other gloves for somebody, then, you know, them wearing it's not a big deal. But I have gloves on everybody that's being used right now that are all decent uses, so I'm not going to focus on those. The rest of them are going to be various different types of +1 armors. Oh, I got the Rupturing Blade. So the Rupturing Blade is just a rapier +1 here. So it does come with an additional unlock here for proficiency with Searing Blood. And this is, you deal your normal slashing damage, you do an additional fire damage to them while you yourself take slashing damage. So in being able to deal that fire damage, you open yourself up to slashing damage. However, if you might be under the effect of something like Hellrider's Pride, where you have resistance to slashing damage, then you're dealing out more than you're taking. However, again, it's just not something that I tend to focus on my playthroughs. I think all the rest of them are going to be the standard +1 weapons. Yes, they are. So I do want to look and just see if we have anything else in here. These are all dies. And I've been putting that off. I should probably just go through and do one of the dies to show you how they work at some point. I don't think I have any on me. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just get rid of all of these items that we have on us. And for most of these clothes and that sort of stuff, I don't care about getting the really small amount of gold that goes along with them. So this is why I picked them up, is so that I can just give them to him. And raise his view of us using low-cost items that I don't really care about getting the gold for. Okay, so I'm just looking around here. Okay, and then we do have some more clothing here. Okay, so now when I go and sell off some of the more high-priced items, I'm going to make that money back and more. My attitude is now 25 as opposed to where it was 0. So whatever total percent increase that is, I'm getting 25% better on whatever that increase is compared to what it was at 0. It's not necessarily a 25% increase in price. I'm just saying it's a 25% increase on what I'm going to get out of these things. So now when I go and trade, I can just trade the rest of these items off that I don't need anymore, and get a little extra gold back, and I'll make back more than what I sold or what I gave away on all those rags. So here... I don't... Yeah, the faded drow leather armor. I said I was going to talk about it. There's nothing special about it. Off of picking it up off the drow in Waukeen's Rest. But now you can see I'm picking up quite a bit of gold from all of these things, and he's going to run out of gold pretty quick here. And I was selling all of these because Astarion doesn't need them. And I think that's it. Astarion still got 5 and 3, which is what I want him kept at. He doesn't need any more. He's too good at passing the sleight of hand checks for him to carry a whole bunch of those around and just use up his carry weight. There's no point in it. Okay. So now I can look and see if there's anything else out of this that I want. I don't think that there is, because Astarion just has his... I could, I guess, prep for that later. Yeah, I might as well go ahead and do that. I'll just pick that up for now. That's going to give me some more selling capacity here. See if there's anything else that I want to sell off. I'm going to sell off Spell Thief. I don't need it anymore, but I'll sell it somewhere else. And I apologize. I'm looking at my screen right now. I can see out of the corner of my eye chat's going. I apologize. Give me just a second to finish going through some of this selling here. And I think this is going to be about it. Okay, I think that's about it. We do have 6 shovels. That's probably more than... That is more than enough, so I'm going to have Lae'zel get rid of this one. Okay. The Potion of Invisibility is probably a good... The 2 of these are probably a good thing to pick up as well. So now I can sell off the ingots. Okay, so I'm only going to be able to sell off 4 of those. Yes. Okay, so let me catch up on chat here. Oh, so you're saying that the Titan string bow didn't add the strength on your play? I don't know. I haven't tested it out to see if it's broken or not. If it was broken and it's in Act 1, I figured they'd have reported it a long time ago, and it would have been fixed by now, but... Yeah, I'm saving the shovels for something. So, yes, believe it or not, I intentionally picked them up. I'm saving them for something later on. I don't need 6. I only need 3 in addition to the ones I'm carrying. But I don't care about the little additional carry weight. But I do have a purpose for them, trust me. Okay, so I think that's it. So we're going to go ahead and save here. And next week we're going to come back here and finish exploring throughout this area here. So one other thing that we did pick up, and I'm going to have to do some inventory management here. the other thing that we did pick up was Herald. So this is a heavy crossbow as well, just like the Giant Breaker is. It comes with Heraldish Doom, so when you deal damage to a target with a ranged weapon, it must succeed a Charisma saving throw or be baned for 2 turns. Now, Bane is the opposite of Bless, in that it imparts a severe penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. This is one of the reasons why the gloves of power that we picked up, which are on somebody, they're probably here, yes, do the same thing. However, the difference here is that one is on a melee hit and the other one is on a ranged hit. Okay, so it used to be that the gloves of power applied Bane on any hit as long as you had the Absolute's Mark. So if you had that, you could from range inflict Bane on everybody, and they were really good early game gloves for Astarion or somebody else who was going to be using ranged attacks for the most part, because they could just Bane a target that was right next to your melee character, and they had a good chance of missing their next targets. Well, the Gloves of Power got changed a little bit, in that they only work on a melee hit now. However, they replaced it with Herald to be able to Bane a target using a ranged weapon. However, you have to succeed on a Charisma saving throw to do it, and then you're baned for 2 turns, not just 1. So Herald is kind of the ranged version of the Gloves of Power, and we'll explore that a little bit and see how useful or not useful it's going to be. That's a good question, boss. I'm not entirely sure, because I haven't used Herald in my current playthroughs, and Bane used to be a 1-round thing on the Gloves of Power previously, so I never had to worry about holding concentration very much. So I don't know. My guess is that you don't have to hold concentration on this, because it's a weapon effect. It's not a spell casted effect that you were imparting, but it's a good question. I honestly don't know the answer to it. We are going to experiment with it, and we're going to mess with it a little bit. It's going to be one of those type of enter into combat with somebody, like, well, I'm not going to give away kind of what's going to happen, but with somebody who's far away, who has the ability to wield that weapon to help, again, protect your frontline melee characters from being damaged. So you can Bane those enemies and lower their attack rolls, and also lower their saving throws against AoE spells like Fireball, which have a dex save, or against Eldritch Blast, which is an attack roll. Well, it wouldn't work on attack roll. But yeah, anything, saving throws against web and that sort of stuff as well. So it's going to be something we're going to experiment with a little bit. So right now, we're going to have some people carrying some things for right now. That right now they can't really do anything with, but in the future we're going to be able to utilize them better with those items once we start making some changes to the party makeup and how those characters are multi-classed and that sort of stuff. Like I said, I'm trying not to give too much away about what's happening, but we are going to have the opportunity to wield that a lot more in the future. So I think with that, that gives us a great place to end off here. We've got probably 20 to 30 minutes of exploration here inside the Zhentarim basement. If we choose to loot this place, it's probably more like 45 minutes worth of stuff. So I think we've got a good thing to start off with next week before we head out from here and see if we want to go deal with the Githyanki, or if we want to level up a little bit one more time first before we deal with them, and we'll have that conversation next week. So remember, just as an aside, if you hang around for another hour, the Paladin live stream is going to start. I'm going to put up the notification about it immediately after I finish this and close it. So if you want to stick around, feel free to. I'll look forward to seeing you then. So as usual, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me today. Without your support, none of this would be possible. And this is me, Commander Jorval, saying until next time, fare thee well.
I hope the fish trace